Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm going live a tad earlier right now. It's like 2 or 3 minutes because since it's the first live stream of November, I'm going to really quickly do my Patreon giveaway. For those of you who don't know, anyone who's a paid Patreon member gets entered into free giveaways every month, depending on what the tier you're in. And so this month we're giving away the Leehoo's emergency weather band radio, AM, FM light, battery pack, hand crank, emergency light that goes in your phone jack, and a throwable / passive fire extinguisher. This is all going to go to one winner. I'll tell you the next. I don't have it with me. I have a big ass brand new tent to give away next one. How is everybody? I had to unplug and replug in my mic and camera, so it seems to be working just fine. But let me know if anything's weird. So if you guys are in the Patreon, let me know real quick. We can. I don't know how well you can see this, but here's the thing really quick. You can zoom in to see what number you have, which range of numbers you have. If you're one of the 12 people, your odds are still pretty good. Even if you're only one, it's 1 out of 50. If you have multiple entries because of your tier, then your odds are even better. So there was your numbers. And then we're going to go back to our little generator here. See if you guys can see that. So we got 1 to 50 set. Adds. There we go. The wheel is 1 to 50. Spin. See what we get. $27. So let's go back to our spreadsheet because I didn't remember it all by heart. Wait, it's back there. Somewhere around here. There we go. What number is that? 27. 27 is Lincoln. Lincoln R. I'll be emailing you. You are the winner of this batch of stuff. Now that we got that out of the way, giving a little back to the people, a little bread and circuses for you all. Keep everyone interested in these trying times. Now we can get to the now there's 13 of you here, so it's a little less private. But yeah, free stuff. The next one is a multi-person tent that was originally from BattleBox. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's like a teepee style. It's pretty cool. Definitely not a solo tent. What's up, Tactical Fat Nap? So that will be the giveaway. I'll show that in the next. I'll put it on Patreon, and you can go on Patreon and just sign up, even if you don't want to pay, and just get notified of what each monthly drawing is in case you don't want to do it every month. You don't like me that much, but if you see something really cool that you want to get in on that contest, so just go ahead and I appreciate if you guys would just at least go sign up. And because one of the reasons I'm doing Patreon is just to have an alternate way to contact everybody if something happens with my YouTube, at least I'm on there. So I would actually appreciate it if everyone gets on there, even as unpaid. And then I definitely appreciate anybody's paid. It barely covers the cost of shipping this stuff out every month right now. And the more people get on there, the better prizes. Love to start giving away some gold and silver and at least have an alternate means of communicating with you guys. So obviously, big weekend. Like the title mentions, I come to you now at the turning of the tide. And I wanted to have a brief message. I am not an activist. I'm not a revolutionary, but I am a recalcitrant anti-government fighter. And I will give you my brief pitch for those of you who are still on, I don't even want to say on the fence, but who just don't want to bother with voting, why I think that you should. Because we're in a situation now where even if you're one of those people, because this is the audience that I'm addressing right now, is they're all the same, nothing ever changes, blah, blah, blah. We're in like a Pascal wagers type situation that if you're right and you vote, nothing really happens. All you have to do is really saying like, oh, they got me, it's all fake, and I went and wasted an hour to vote anyway. That's the downside if you're right. If you're wrong, you're giving up a huge one of the few small amounts of power we have left in a hugely important situation where I have a list of things here because the whole they're all the same argument is absolutely not true. We know that because we've seen both of these administrations of power and things were not the same. Are there some things that are going to be problems regardless, like the death of the dollar? Absolutely. Would we much rather have potentially a chance with, certain elements of our country surviving, certain freedom surviving, while we have to experience that under one administration versus the other? Absolutely. So here's a huge list of things. And I would say if there's even one of these things is different in a new administration, it's worth voting for Trump over the current administration. We have no new wars were started under Trump's administration. As much as he talks big, likes to fondle Israel's balls and whatnot, talks about nuking everybody, he is the only president in our lifetime, and probably before that, at least my lifetime, I don't know how old some of you fogies are, to not have started any new wars. That in and of itself is huge. Gun confiscation. Obviously, that is a hill to literally die on. Harris administration, Biden have talked openly about confiscation. We know they want to do that. We know they want to admit it or start an assault weapons ban like they, have always been talking about. That has not changed. I don't care how much they show Tim Walz fumbling with a shotgun or Harris talking about her Glock or whatever she thinks she has, collecting dust in her dildo drawer somewhere. They want to take, or at least extremely limit the amount of weapons we're allowed to have, increase the cost of ownership, everything. Look like California over the whole country if we're lucky. The Make America Healthy Again agenda being promoted by RFK and a few other people. Enormous. Even the mention of the seed oils, the fluoride in the water, the FDA to big pharma pipeline and big ag pipeline and circle jerk that's happening. Just exposing that stuff and bringing it to light, chance for any of it to be ended in and of itself, insanely important. Obviously, the border. If the administration situation isn't fixed, this is the last election that will ever be able to have a legitimately conservative candidate having a hope of winning. Yeah, there will still be two parties, but they will both be far left of center to have any chance of courting the now, demographic makeup of what the country will be at that point. Voter integrity. Everything that we've made small processes in covering or in fixing some of that stuff, but all the mail-in balloting, the illegal immigrants voting, the Dominion systems and all this shenanigans and how long it takes to count, none of that will be fixed. In fact, will be enshrined in law if the Biden administration continues to exist. Harris. Trump has even talked about abolishing the income tax in favor of tariffs or maybe even just pure deficit spending, which is not a long-term solution, but it's obviously better. Literally, we have them talking about bringing Ron Paul in to work with Elon Musk in terms of slashing government spending and work on government efficiency. If there's any chance of the country surviving through the coming dollar collapse and economic crisis, a key component of that will be absolutely ruthless slashing of government spending. Elon Musk has done it with Twitter and in the private sector. We know Ron Paul's in the right frame of mind. Even mentioning his name as a possibility to see him actually step into the White House alone is probably worth voting for Trump. The weaponized justice system. We've seen that FBI and other federal agencies turned into Gestapo arms of the state. Even a remote chance of that getting dialed back at all or even stopped from increasing. We have literal political prisoners in prison right now. We have the justice system being weaponized against political opponents and individuals alike. And if they can put people like Democratic presidential candidates and career military officers like Tulsi Gabbard on literally secret government terrorist watch lists, then what does that say for people like you and me? They've talked openly about packing the courts and getting rid of the Electoral College. We have people like literal government members, or at least previous government members like Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, talking openly and overtly, saying that the First Amendment is a hindrance to them and how they want to run the government. And now they're killing squirrels. So I just listed probably 15 things that any one of those would be even if everything else about the administrations was the same, any one of those would be reason enough to get off your ass and go out there and cast a vote this time. And I won't bother you again about, if we lose this one, I won't mention any other elections to you ever again. Probably won't even if we win. This is the one. If you think there's any chance of it mattering at all, like I said, it's a Pascal wagers of sorts where if it's really the reptilians controlling everything and their fake opposition, then you have lost nothing. Nothing has changed but an hour or two of your time out of your day to go vote. And if you're wrong, then, like I said, here's 15 things that are absolutely not the same under two different administrations. So that's my boomer spiel on why it's the most importantest election ever and why you have to get off your ass. So now we can move into our normal preparedness related talk. But I'll still stick on the subject of the squirrels. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there was a Instagram account where some dude in New York had rescued a squirrel. He saw its mother get hit by a it like the baby infant was either like in a nest or I don't know how the details. He rescued the squirrel, raised it. It was like 7 years old. It was like trained in his house. It would like jump on his hand. It could do commands. It had been in captivity the whole time. Allegedly, he had attempted to release it back into the wild and it returned with injuries. It was like not able to survive on its own safely. And it's a fucking squirrel, by the way. And it was hugely famous on Instagram, had like 500,000 followers. Had basically been the impetus for him to start an actual wildlife rescue and all this other stuff. And some Karen in a completely other state, along with other people, kept telling the government until the government of New York literally raided like SWAT raided his house, put him on the stoop of his house for 5 hours, while they ransacked his house like he was El Chapo, busting open toilet tanks and stuff to, look for God knows what. And they eventually seized and killed the squirrel because it might have rabies, and a raccoon that he was also part of this rescue. So that just goes to show that this is the weaponized justice system I was talking about. And this isn't necessarily towards any political opponent, but it goes to show that run amok what the government will do when you give them power. And how there is no law that's small enough that they won't back it up with lethal force. Every single law and even, city policy or whatever, if it's something that they have the ability to write a ticket for or worse, then that is backed up with lethal force. Because what happens if you try to resist paying the ticket, even passively, or resist physically, of course, by any means, no matter how stupid the law is, they have the ability and willingness to back it up with lethal force. And that's why we have to dial back the power of the government. Mr. Landfill says, wasn't the Karen angry because he had more viewers than her? Probably. I doubt that's how she presented it. But obviously, yeah, so they're willing to kill fucking squirrels with armed Gestapo. So that's why we can't allow government to have these kind of powers. Then the idea that like your government should have power, and then as long as the other one doesn't, they won't do it. It doesn't matter. And for me, it's fundamental. One of the things that if I had the magic wand to fundamentally alter, to be king of the world. One of the things, and you see this mindset in sports and in the way humans approach everything, is that the way law enforcement is kind of taught, coached, and certainly the way it's presented and thought of internally, is that their job is to enforce the law. And while that seems like, duh, of course, what it should be is the actual, commander's intent, so to speak, the overarching philosophy of why we have government instead of just anarchy, why we have police instead of just everybody doing their own thing, do what thou will be the whole of the law kind of thing, is because the end result is supposed to be better than that anarchy. So when you go out and consider the difference telling someone your job is to find infractions and enforce them versus the whole reason you exist is to make life in this country overall better and more free. A lot of times that's going to be the same thing. That's why we have laws in general, and certain ones make absolute sense. But it's not always the same thing. And it's certainly in a situation like this, it's not the same thing. And if you were to ask this person, these agents, are you doing your job enforcing the law? They would say yes. And that's not necessarily untrue. If that is the law technically being broken, and that's what a lot of these fucking bootlicking cucks will say. It's like, well, it was illegal. But is it making the country or the world better for any single person at all to do this? No. So you have to have some sort of, they always say cops, have some sort of discretion. Obviously, treating every single person and every single institution and every single person or situation the same, like an autistic robot, is a terrible idea. And it's not what they do when it's their cause du jour. You know what I mean? If it's just look at how differently January 6th prisoners were treated versus the riots in Minneapolis and stuff like that. People were literally burning down buildings and people dying, and just how they went after like Kyle Rittenhouse versus, actual looters and stuff. And it would have been so if I'm the one of these institutions, you could easily say, you know what? We give this guy, he broke the law, he gets a fine. There you go, Karens. He's been punished, and you can give him a fucking $500 fine and move on with your life. And Hillary Clinton, the FBI even said, yeah, she broke the law. She did this and this. She mishandled all these things, but we don't think a DA is going to prosecute her. But no, they go after Daniel Penny for protecting people and against a shit smeared subway schizo, or they go after some fucking squirrel who's, one of the king's squirrels is illegally held inside someone's house. Fucking 1 pound rat. So obviously, governance and law enforcement needs a complete overhaul. And, obviously, the metric in my mind is the whole reason these institutions should exist in the first place, if they should exist at all, which in this case, I don't think most of these there's so many federal agencies. So much of those could just be a task force as part of the actual normal law enforcement agencies, if it was something that should even be addressed at all, which in most cases it shouldn't. But to the extent that it should be at all, there doesn't need to be a different federal agencies for everything, because now you're saying fine infractions. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if there was a refs kind of understand this, in like some sports. Some get in the mindset of infraction, see it, enforce it, whereas some realize the whole purpose of there is to just facilitate the fair and free flow of the game. It's not literally to find every possible thing that could, under the absolute letter of the law, be considered an infraction and stop the game to enforce it, because that's just a mess. But that's how law enforcement is done, especially at the federal level. And we need to change that. We need to realize that the reason police and law enforcement and laws to begin with exist is because it's supposed to make our lives better and more free. And when the government becomes is not supporting those ends, as the text says, then it is our duty to abolish it. They could have just given the guy exactly. Right. And no one would care. The whole thing would die, but it doesn't matter, because these people say, ooh, I exist here. And now it's like wildlife agents have a task force. They probably don't even get to do anything more than once every 3 years. So they've got a big, they're all bricked up about getting to kick in a door somewhere. And yeah, why do they break one? Exactly. Does this warrant even allow them to just search the house? If their warrant is to get the squirrel, and it doesn't sound like he tried to hide the squirrel, or stop them from coming in. Initially, the reports were that they did not have a warrant, which, if someone tries to enter your house without a warrant, this is not financial advice, but I think apples to apples response is a hail of bullets at their groin. But apparently there was a warrant that some fucking idiot judge actually signed off on to go get a squirrel. A judge should fucking lambaste somebody for even putting that on their desk and wasting their fucking time with that. And it's almost certainly did not include just ransacking the whole house if the squirrel that they had the warrant for was immediately available to them. Said, wouldn't it have been cool if the owners would have resisted with force to save the squirrel? It would have been really cool. It certainly would not have ended well for them. But based on the internet outcry, we probably could have gotten more supporters than even the Bundys got at the Bundy Ranch. And it might prevent them from doing something stupid in the future because, as you guys probably know, I am a fervent believer in two principles. One, people who start fights don't get to bitch about how they end, and sometimes reasonable men must do unreasonable things. The squirrel owner seems like a reasonable man from what I can tell. Sometimes it's time to not be nice. Utah Mike says, I'm late tonight. I'm sick of this fucking squirrel. It's not about the squirrel. The squirrel is just a symbol of government overreach. It's always a moment. It's always a straw, single straw. It's not about that straw. But I do encourage all of you who are coming in late to go back and please, please, please watch the first 10 minutes of this, where I give my impassioned plea as to you not be a lame cuck and go actually vote so I don't end up in the gulag. That's another thing that I don't hate. I wrote on Twitter that like it's only one side that says this, so I'm probably preaching to the choir, but the whole, I don't care who you vote for, it's just important to vote. That's cuck talk. I absolutely do not believe that. I think that 95% of the people in this country or any country shouldn't be allowed to vote to begin with. And I can come up with all sorts of filters that I think make sense. But I absolutely have my reasons for voting who I vote for. And of course, I will admit that I might be wrong, but I definitely don't think it's just equally valid to take the other side of any decision, or I wouldn't be making this decision. So if you are doing something that I think is destructive to the country, I absolutely don't want you to vote. And yeah, so don't just vote if you're going to vote wrong. Be right and then support that decision. So that's my piece about the whole thing. As to what we're going to see in the next few days, I was just talking with a good friend of mine. I could be wildly wrong on this. There probably will be, unless we get a real epic humiliations galore blowout, there won't be a clear-cut winner as of Tuesday night. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday by the end of the week at the earliest, but definitely not Tuesday night unless it is like a brutal blowout, which fingers crossed. So what I'm thinking is that there's obviously some states have even said already, which how can you say ahead of time, that it's going to take up to 8 or 10 days to count, namely Arizona. We're going to see a lot of weird shit in Pennsylvania like we already have. But there are scenarios where if he sweeps all the other swing states, Arizona, or not Arizona, sorry, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, like if those all go, we could have it be so good that it just doesn't even matter what their results are, that we could, that even if they're lost, it wouldn't matter. So, and that could kind of counterfeit their attempts at dragging their ass. Then we could see it on, an official result on Wednesday. But I don't think there's any chance we see an official result on Tuesday night, at least not to the extent that they will admit it or concede, unless, like I said, unless it's just like an awful beatdown, which would be beautiful. Mr. Landfill says, I think this is the easiest vote I'll ever make, a no-brainer. Exactly. It's a no-brainer because we have everything to lose, but nothing to lose by actually just throwing in the vote. Because like I said, if I'm wrong and the lizard overlords are controlling everything and Trump is an opposition candidate, what difference does it make? You know what I mean? I'm going to shoot my 22 at the charging elephant. Is it going to kill it? Probably not. Is it better than not shooting it? I think so. I like being a tough out and at least being able to say to myself that I didn't bend the knee, didn't go out without a fight, whatever. So that's how I look at the whole picture. But it's also important to remember that life will go on regardless. Like JJ just had a good video about this. Like, even if we have a catastrophic defeat and all these things on this list end up on the wrong side of it, we're still going to be here. We fight in the shade, life goes on. And like I said, honestly, also, even with a Trump win, we're not going to avoid the dollar collapse. That is written in the stars, so to speak. It's going to happen. It was destined to happen from the moment they created the Federal Reserve in 1913, and certainly from the moment they officially ditched the gold standard. It was just a matter of time. And I think they will be very, very much more likely to do everything they can to make that happen under Trump's watch, even if it wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. You can see there are big, big warnings flashing in the bond markets right now that the market is really wanting to dump off almost. And I think they are working really hard to keep the market propped up to support the current administration through the election. And I think that they also know that it's just a matter of time. And if they have to choose between now or sometime in the next 4 years, they're absolutely going to make sure that it happens under Trump's watch. And I also have been saying all along that I don't think that, especially with all this focus on the health and everything, they will probably eventually, when the truth comes out about the vaccine, like really comes out, like obviously we all know that it was a horrible disaster, to say the least. They eventually will try to make that Trump's fault too, because he did own it. That's one of the mistakes he made. Is that because that was one of the few things that the mainstream media and everybody couldn't say shit about. They couldn't complain about the vaccine, so they have to at least tacitly give him props for that. Then he's owned it the whole time, which is a mistake because it's an obvious disaster. So they're going to eventually dump that at his feet as well. Trump needs to declare victory at 7 p.m. Maybe West Coast will have to say, yeah, hope so. To the extent that it matters, all the data coming in is positive, but it's not deterministic. Anything can happen. This got censored here in the chat. What do you say? There are some that, as much as I know that these big tech, YouTube, Facebook's proven that they censor and let the government control things. And Mark Zuckerberg admitted this. He literally came out and apologized for letting it happen. We know they do that, but there's also some just stupid algorithmic stuff where certain words or like swear words, and I've even had my own comments. I'm trying to comment on my own video to someone and it won't post it because I use the word retard or it's something that appears to be a link or just different things like that. So it's not always ideological censorship. Sometimes it's just bullshit. Try to find some different ways to say it, Destiny, and maybe it'll get through I don't know what you tried to say. Maybe get through the chat. We need a way to get like meme. Need a proper what? Elephant. Oh, need a proper elephant gun. Yeah. Like in like a 600 nitro or something like he uses in what the hell is the prepper from Tremors? Burt Gummer. Big, like that was like a 600 nitro, I think. Something to really put your front delts to the test. Just throw you on your ass about the size of the fucking Costco hot dog. These things are awesome. Amazing stuff. Let me go back and see some comments. It's up to see High Desert Pioneer in here. I love it. Sounds like the basis for a John Wick spinoff. Absolutely. Absolutely does. Yeah, just don't even answer your front door ever. I agree with that. Like I said, apparently, from what I'm seeing, that they did have a warrant. So they were coming in one way or another, and they're all too happy to just kick your door down. So it doesn't seem like that was actually at play in this particular scenario. Is it 700 nitro? Shit, bigger, 70 caliber. Yeah, 20 millimeter anti-tank. Isn't that what he used in the Jackal? He had one of those 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon. I guess it wasn't the Vulcan cannon, but it was a big 20 millimeter. He blew the Jack Black's arm off. Only Orange County is in risk, but the rest of Florida is ready. Yeah, Florida's looking super solid. I mean, if you want to realize the benefit of what actually, having any kind of election integrity can do, just look at what happened in Florida. We were like I don't live in Florida anymore, so I guess not but Florida was like a couple tens of thousands of votes away from having a literal gay meth addict who like shat his pants being the governor. And for all the goofiness that DeSantis has been up to, and I don't think I'm glad it was Trump and not him for the presidential candidate. He's done a very good job there and saved that country from perdition, or that state. Yeah, Florida has 100% chance of going. Trump would bet all my money on it. Yeah, I mean, barring like, a literal, we're canceling election type shit. Last I checked, I think Florida was negative 2,000 in the odds which means it's a 20-1 favorite to go Republican. Let me see the odds. That's another thing. We've seen the odds in a lot of these betting markets change wildly, but nothing has changed. Nothing has happened. There's no reason why. A lot of that is, first of all, profit taking. A lot of these people got in with Trump at about 50-50, and now right before the election, he was at like almost 2-1. 70. if you had a 30% share, it's now like a 70% share. So your money's doubled. So a lot of those people are going to sell off. And it's pretty obvious from the data that I've seen that Kamala buyers are juicing that market just to try and make it look close. Because these are not like a bookie. There are bookies, and one of the ones I'm looking at is a European book that sets its own line. But the stuff like the Poly market, those are like a stock market. You buy shares. So anyone, there has to be a buyer and a seller on each side. You can control the price if you have enough money to throw into the market, just like you could with stocks that have low volatility and are, fairly liquid. You see that a lot in the crypto space where there's, not very much liquidity. You can control the price of things. So if I go up there right now with $10 million and say I'm willing to buy Kamala shares for 60 cents when everyone else is selling them for like 45, the price is going to go way up because no one else is going to sell for less than that because they can get 60 cents. So that just jacks the price up as long as I have the money there to absorb those sales. And it can really pretty dramatically alter the short-term price, especially when, like I said, if I had Trump shares at 60, 70% that I had doubled my money, I would go ahead and sell them now because you're only going to get about the same amount of money more if it goes up to 100% and, if it resolves. And so you're already up, doubled your money, but you have to bet that entire amount again to get another 30% increase if he wins, when we know there's going to be some shenanigans. While I do think he'll win, I would certainly take profits here, at least half of it, so you're free rolling them. Take out your initial investment free, and then you're playing with house money with the rest of it. Speaking of which, we went 3-0 so far on our NFL bets today. The Rams gave us a little bit of a scare winning in overtime. But now what are the Vikings doing? I had to bet against the Packers. Sorry to my family. The Lions are just too strong. The Vikings are the last one for the day. Ooh, down 7. That's not good. Oh, well. We'll have to settle for going 3-1. But it's not over yet. Nothing is over. I haven't voted yet. We'll probably vote. Probably. God damn it. Do you want to go in the goulash? I'm not sharing my coconut rind with you when my loved ones put it in an extra coconut in my bucket like in Papillon so my teeth don't all fall out. You're not getting shared unless you voted. Probably vote in person tomorrow. Love the idea of Ron Paul joining. I know. I mean, that alone. If they actually, like I said, there's 20 things like that any one of them is worth at least taking the chance. And the only thing we risk is being a sucker if it turns out the reptilians have rigged it all. Okay. In that situation, we're going to be loading the bodies into the incinerators one way or another anyway. So like I said, I'm going to fight. I haven't decided if I'm going to load up some more SMG mags on Tuesday, going with the flow. Yeah, for me, what I think, like I said, regardless of the outcome of the election, we know the dollar problem is not going away. It might buy some more time. It might even hasten it. Like I said, hasten the collapse if they decide to be like, all right, we're just, burning the house down now because he won. So for me, I have all my basic preps. I got the 2 years of food. I got the solar panels and I got the power generator. I got my Jace case, got a few pews lying around. So for me, it's all about the financial preparedness to the extent that I can. So we need some of this real wealth forged in the heart of a dying star. Pit companion for a prepper. My little blessed little noogie. If I see Ron Paul stand in the White House, it will all be worth it. Exactly. Mentioning voting, our Gators desperately need a new coach. I mean, I'm not one of those who instantly blames everything at the feet of the coaches. We actually looked pretty good in that Georgia game. We beat Tennessee, beat Kentucky, looked solid. We're actually beating Georgia, and then our quarterback, who is already the second stringer, got it injury, and our third stringer ended up throwing an interception, and we still ended up covering the 15-point spread by 1 point. So I'm not 100% sure. We had a brutal, like punitively tough schedule this year, especially for now and the rest of the season. So I don't know enough about the mechanics of football itself. I've never a football player or coach or offensive coordinator or any of that to know when it's the coach's problem versus when it's not. I can only see certain things. Like I love that the Lions coach goes for it, actually has some balls, takes the high variance, high risk, high reward plays. I love that. But beyond stuff like obvious, superficial decision making like that, it's hard for me to know when it's really the coach's fault or not. So either way, go Gators. What was that about Papillon? My top favorite movies. Oh, I was talking about when his friend smuggled him in an extra coconut in his when he was in solitary confinement and he was so malnourished his teeth were falling out and he only survived because his buddy like threw an extra half a coconut in there every day. Thought it was 2 years of food. Oh, 2 years of food. I thought it was 2 years of coffee, then get food. Whoops. Yeah, I mean, if you can sustain yourself, depending on how fluffy you may be, don't know about your current, physical situation, but there was a guy in the 70s, Angus Bearbury, who was wildly overweight, and he went 380 days fast, no food, only coffee, lost an average of 12 ounces a day. Not the best way to survive the apocalypse, but it's one way to be sure. I, as you can see, do not have a particularly large amount of food stored on my person. Stag chili. I'm not about the hot and spicy. I've got my white European ancestry probably to thank for that. I can handle spices like medium spice, like medium wings, stuff like that's fine. I'm just like anything hotter than that. I'm just like all I taste is spicy now. So what's the point? For me, I'm the Laredo stag chili Laredo. Just doesn't get any better than that for my money. As long as you have stag chili, you have everything you need. Exactly, everything a body needs. Got a great mix, 600 plus calories per can. Got a great macro split, proteins, fats, carbs, and a delicious flavor. It's ready to go, pre-cooked. Don't even have to necessarily warm it up if it was an emergency. Always bulking for the apocalypse, exactly. Yep. Almost completely defluffed. Excellent. Got tired of being out of breath after tying my shoes. Indeed. Cardio, rule number one of the zombie apocalypse, remember? I just watched a very inspiring, but there's this dude whose channel I subscribe to who does because I'm in bad shape right now compared to how I was before my spinal surgery. I just lost a lot of weight. Slowly getting back. And he does these prison. He was like a felon and got fit in prison and continues to do these prison style workouts. And he just did a workout. He doesn't live streams it in 5 in the morning and shit. And he did one that he was in front leaning rest position the whole time, or plank position for you cities. And so he would get off one arm at a time, shake it out. 1,000 push-up workout. Did it in 45 minutes without coming out of front leaning rest. That was inspiring. Got to get back into that level of shape. I don't think I ever was in that level of shape. I could bust out in the mid to high 90s in 2 minutes for the PT test, but I never felt the need to go for another 30 42 minutes after that. Wolf is solid, and it's actually a little bit cheaper. I have no beef with Wolf, but the Stag Chili Laredo flavor is just superior. But if you like Wolf, they're great. Their ingredients list is still pretty clean. I was all aboard the Wolf train until Stag came into my life. Caught me unawares, like a marlin jumping into your boat. No beef. You can get no beans. When is Stag going to start sponsoring you? I think I'm far too outrageously right-wing / dissident because it's Hormel. They also own Stag. It's a trick. There is no two sides. Just they're controlled opposition. Stag is the controlled opposition. So I seriously doubt Hormel would sponsor me. I literally talked about going Marvin Heemeyer earlier in this. Oh, I had no beef with Wolf. Yeah. I have no bone to pick with them. Let's put it that way. Fredo chips and chili is great. Yeah, like the Fritos. We're all pawns of Big Chili. Exactly. One way or another, all roads lead back to Big Chili. It's just a game. The puppet master's controlling us all. But one of them does have no seed oils, better flavor. It's better overall. No TVP, no textured vegetable protein. Fuck that shit. They're going to get fucking suplexed by Bobby Kennedy for selling that garbage. What else we got? Got to keep me entertained. so I don't run back to watch myself lose $100 on this Vikings game. But yeah, so keep good spirits. Definitely get out there and vote. If for nothing else, just to sock these fuckers in the nose for the bullshit they put us through for the last 4 years. The rustling of Jimmy's will be legendary. Yellowstone chili is great. There's a bunch of not a bunch, but there are a handful of brands out there that are like these Whole Foods artisanal brands that may be awesome, but I am a poor who buys PSA firearms and things like that. So I try to get a nexus of quality, taste, and cost. So some of these out there are probably amazing. And certainly I bet there's some of you guys that are canning or jarring your own homemade, legendarily delicious chilies, which would be awesome. And like I said, I recommend also that if you can put stuff in glass, that's even better. They don't sell Stag in my area, only Wolf. Amazon or Walmart.com shipping. But Wolf is fine. There's nothing wrong with Wolf. Wolf's good. Might buy some silver in the morning at the LCS. I also plan on trying to buy some more. I just got this one was my last purchase, my little delicious little noogie. So that kind of tapped me out for a while. Used my poker winnings on this little guy. But I definitely want to get more. But it's so glorious. Love it. Love it. Did you see the Iowa poll? I did not. What was the Iowa poll? I mean, I've seen the general aggregate polls, I think, but what were they saying now about it? I've seen some shady stuff come out that were like these huge swings for no apparent reason. I just don't buy it. I've seen no reason why. The polls were always never that accurate to begin with. 50 gram, yes. It's 50 G's, baby, as Conor McGregor might say. 50 G's, 999.9. Beautimus. Beautimus. 50 grams. Some nice little weight to it. Enough to get me across the border. Harris up by 4 points in Iowa. I doubt that, but we'll see. Are you live streaming the election night? I was thinking about it, but I honestly don't see the reason for what I explained earlier in the live stream about how I think that unless we have a just hilarious landslide, the results won't be known that night. Probably there's a decent chance of them being known by Wednesday, certainly Thursday or the end of the week. But literally on Tuesday night, when most the country will be in bed before the results are even like tabulated, even in the ones that are doing it properly, let alone, like I said, Arizona's and a few other states that are like, we won't be done for 8 days. I just don't see the point of doing it on election night. If we see such a beatdown, I'll jump on here. But it'll be so late for you guys on East Coast even if everything went like elections was supposed to, it's pretty late East Coast time by the time everything is would be known because all the West Coast states have to come in and everything. So if it's like a brutal beatdown, I'll jump on here and do a live stream because I'll be up. I stay up till like 2 a.m. West Coast time. So I'll be up. That's why I got to see the creativity of the last vote counting. Because I was awake for it. I don't think anyone who can watch that live and really think that there weren't shenanigans. Just no sharp edges for your gulag bank. Yeah, exactly. Nice and smooth through the old prison pocket. Love Sarah Palin. Are you like? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so probably not live streaming election night, but good chance I will jump on within the next day or two. So stay tuned. That's another reason I'll try to, if I decide to do it day of, it would be late, at least probably 10 Pacific time, 8, somewhere like that, because I don't know when the results normally start coming in. If the polls close at what do they close, 7 or 8? When do I already early voted? Oh, that's another thing. There is a Elon Musk's he has a petition slash thing that all you have to do is say like, I support the Second Amendment and free and fair elections or whatever, and you will get a entry. He's doing a $1 million giveaway if you're in certain considered swing states. So each day through November 5th. So you have maybe even today, tomorrow, and November 5. If you're in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, or North Carolina, he's giving away to one person from that group of states $1 million a day, chosen from the people who have signed this petition. Yeah, you'll probably get a few emails out of it or whatever. That's the whole point of doing this. But link right here is in the description. And put in my email address because I think there's a chance I get like $30 if I refer you, and then you can do that too. But basically, I would love for someone I know or one of my viewers to be one of the people who get the $1 million. So just put that in the chat. Link will be in the thanks for something by Mr. Landfill. Appreciate it. Link will be in the description after, if you're watching this after the video as well, for the petition. If you're in one of those swing states, go ahead and sign up for it and put the rulethewasteland@gmail.com in the who referred you thing, and I might get money out of it. I don't even know. But that's not why I want you to do it. I want you to win $1 million. Because I'm not going to win it. I'm not that lucky. But maybe you will. Maybe you'll win it. And that'll put you well on your way. You can buy a handful of these, quite a few handfuls of these, to survive the coming dollar collapse if you get $1 million. Even after taxes, probably only get 700K or something. But that's still, you got a stew going, 700K. So what do you guys have? Any topics last minute? Like I said, I don't think preparedness wise, I would top off your gas tanks, fix any immediate, gaps or flaws, or if like you have something that's not put back together or staged the right way it should be, go ahead and do that now. Fill up your gas tanks, fill up your gas cans, check a few things, but I'm not really expecting anything too crazy over the next couple of days. I'm expecting World War III type stuff and major economic decline over the next 90 days to 4 years, regardless of who wins. I guess Idaho doesn't count. Nah, fortunately, you guys have it locked down there. You're on the right side already, so that does mean that you don't get as much attention, unfortunately, but it does mean you're doing it the way it's supposed to be done, not making the whole country worry about what a bunch of jabronis in Pennsylvania think. It's wild that silver spot price is over $30 an ounce. I haven't bought any since it was $16. I know. I remember back when it was $8 an ounce. Then it got up to almost 50, and then way back down. B Hill says, I'm teaching nuclear prepping in my geography class. Awesome. Nice work. If you can show my poor man's guide to preparedness for nuclear war if you want. Think Iran will make a move before the election? No, if anything, I think it will be Israel that makes any move on that front to begin with. And I think they're probably waiting. My guess is I think Trump is going to win. I don't think it's guaranteed, obviously, but that's my guess. And then I think they're going to do something before the inauguration if they think that because I think that for all his talk, they know he's less likely to be full on, military industrial complex candidate. He actually does want fewer wars. He's proven this in his last administration. So I think if he wins, there's a high likelihood that they'll do something between November 5th and January inauguration. But I think it'll be Israel making the move, not Iran. Even though they might, set it up and present it that Iran did something. But that's just my take. I'm no expert on these things. But I haven't been too far off on a lot of that stuff for the most part. Topped off and charged up, says Hillbill. Awesome. Advance to be president. If what? I mean, if Trump couldn't for some reason. Did you get another comment sent to the cornfield? Because all I got was, but Vance would be president. 538 has Donald Trump up in Pennsylvania. Yeah, he was leading in all the swing states. Last polls I saw that seemed realistic to me without this all of a sudden changing. And also, even the ones where he's what's interesting is he's like even on some, but in 2016, I think the polls generally had him down 4% going into the election, which he won. In 2020, he was down like 8 points supposedly on the polls in an election that he lost. And now he's slightly ahead to even and all. So if that trend holds, he could be way ahead. But polls are polls. They're not deterministic. Like I said, they're not causal. It's just the trend. I don't see any reason to think that that has changed, that he's sort of always underrepresented in the polls for whatever reason. Probably just due to methodology and how they're calling people on the phone, more likely to get boomers and purposely trying to get certain types of results in some cases, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so who knows? But yeah, so stay safe, guys. Stock up on last minute stuff. Just make sure you have it ready to go and test out stuff. If there's something that you haven't opened, go ahead and crack the box open, use it. If you have your EMP cloth and just sitting there, go ahead and wrap that stuff up. Make sure your gas tanks are filled up, but I don't expect anything crazy within the next week. We might see if some small amounts of civil unrest in major cities, so be ready for that. But just be resilient. Stay positive.